Hey, 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 hey. Brian Christian here with Father of Glory Global Ministries. And, I wanted to talk about how we can deal with the extremes in the way in which we express love and a little bit of some things that are going on today. And I know in my life have been a continual up and down and back and forth and stretching process is in discerning what am I supposed to be manifesting in love in this season that might be different from the previous season, or what is being added to my season right now that might seem the opposite of what was just given to me to do or to be. And so we tend to run into this a lot. And so I want to talk a little bit about that today. But before I kind of get into that, I want to give a little bit of announcement. Now, we're working on some upcoming events, and we're trying to get the RV welded and get some things done so we can get back on the road. So we will be coming to, and I'll have some flyers up for you. But here's one flyer we have. Let's see, I've got it here somewhere. Let me just put it up here. We will be coming to New York with Jackie Myers and Lynn Joyful May 5th through the 8th in Chautauqua, New York. If you're seeing this on Facebook, you can just simply reach out to Lynn Joyful, private messenger on Messenger on Facebook, and you can get the information. We do have limited space, and so first come, first serve. There will be room for people to stay. I think we have room for about 20 people to stay there on the grounds. And then beyond that, there's hotels up the road as well. So I want to encourage you, come to that. It's the All Good gathering. And it's going to be going on, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And it's going to be wonderful. And I think people are probably going to stick around Monday as well. But we're going to be ministering and demonstrating love. We're going to have community. We're going to have all kinds of revelation. It's going to be great. We're going to learn how to understand what it means to walk in that statement that everything is good. It is all good. And how can we relax in that presence, in that place of grace, and no longer judge, what we've been judging in our lives, right? And so I want to say hi to Kathleen, bless you, and my wonderful wife on here as well. Moving a little bit slower today, so that might be good for some of you since I'm usually a fast talker. Let's see how long that lasts. But we're trying to set up a time to come to South Carolina, North Carolina in April. We're still waiting. It's all dependent upon getting this RV roadworthy again and finishing some of the things that we couldn't finish last time. So we're hoping to come to South and North Carolina, Alabama, before we hit New York in May. And also the second weekend in May, we're going to be in Tennessee, ministering with Kay Fairchild. And we will also get that information up. It's on a few other people's pages, but we're trying to organize times. So it was just kind of shared, hey, we're going to be there. Here's the place. But we haven't gotten to times yet of when Kay's going to be ministering, when I'm going to be ministering. So that's going to be a phenomenal time if you can make it to Tennessee. It's going to be amazing because, I've been looking forward to ministering with Kay since I met her some years ago. And so this will be great. It'll be a nice flavor as we combine what each of us carries, which is very similar, but we definitely complement each other in what the other person carries. And so it's going to be amazing. I'm really excited about that. And of course, then we will be ministering in Minnesota and then South Dakota. June 17th, the weekend of June 17th, we will be in South Dakota with our annual Fam Bam Communion Reunion camp meeting, which is going to be the whole weekend, 3 sessions a day, food provided. You can, there's about 20 cabins. We're going to advertise this as well. It's $100 a piece for food and shelter. So you can't beat the price. And it's going to be at a place that has cabins, RV hookups, campsites, and it's open air outdoor event for the entire weekend. That is going to be off the hook. If you can make it to South Dakota, we will be getting that information available. And again, it's going to be a first come, first serve with the cabins. Once the cabins are full, bring a tent, bring an RV. And if you don't want to do that route about 5 miles down the road, there are hotels. Of course, you'll be paying more, but it all comes down to early bird gets the worm. So be encouraged about that. Then we'll be off to both sides of Washington, Spokane, Seattle. And we're looking at New Mexico opening up finally for the first time on the way back through. And then we'll hit, of course, Texas. And we're hoping to come back all the way around. So right now we're in the Mississippi area waiting to get going. And we're going to go all the way West Coast, come all the way back. We're hoping to get back sooner into the southern states at the end of the year or closer to the end of the year. And we're going to try to hit some other states if they open up. So if you know anybody in some of these states we haven't visited, if you've been following us and you're like, well, when are you coming to my state? We're all the way over here. Well, comment, let me know. You want to do a gathering? We will be happy to do that. Okay. We'll also be ministering in California on our way through in the, I think it's the Stockton area. I want to say it's the Stockton area at a recovery church with Pastor Wyatt. And that's going to be wonderful. We're going to be ministering on the mind and triggers and inner healing and how to posture in grace to get set free. So it's going to be wonderful. So we have a full schedule. We're hitting at least 3 new states this year. And so we're really excited about that. Tennessee, South Dakota, and New Mexico, and hopefully some more states as we come back around. When God tells us to launch out, Donovan, the South Dakota date is June 17th. It's going to be, I think that's on a Friday. So now, by the way, on the South Dakota Fam Bam Communion Reunion, you want to get there Thursday. All right. They start, unless you can't, they start Friday morning. So we're actually starting Friday morning at, I'm probably going to say 11 a.m. And we'll do a Friday afternoon right around 2:30. 2:33ish, and then we'll start at 7 at night on the evenings, and there'll be plenty of time in between for fellowship and hanging out. And in the middle meetings, we're going to have some activations going on as well, different types of activations and applications for us to be able to apply all that's being released and revealed. We're going to have several speakers. It's going to be wonderful, and a lot of body ministry. A lot of the supernatural is going to be manifesting in the Fam Bam. The emphasis is going to be the spiritual dimensions of Christ, the mystical realms of Christ. And so we're really going to cut loose into the deep and have a lot of encounters. But we're also going to have those few sessions in between to help us kind of put it on in our lives. So we're not just walking away going, wow, that was a great adventure. Now what do I do with my life? So it's going to be really good. And I hope everybody can come. There's a lot of space there, so we're not limited. But we're definitely going to be doing signups so that we can figure out food and registration. Of course, you will have to send in the $100 to secure a place to stay. If you don't want to register and you want to bring an RV or a tent, you can do that. But if you don't register, we also don't have enough food for you. So all of that registration is also going for the food bought ahead of time. So some might want to just come and they're just coming for the meetings and they're going home, or they've got their own food in their RV and they just want to come and be a part. It's not going to cost you. Okay. I think it might be something like $20 for the spot, each night, or total, or probably $10 per spot each night. We really got a good deal on this. And I want to give a shout out to Brett Erickson, who is opening the land that they just bought for this event, and really giving us a decent price on this. They wanted to give it to us for free, and I said no, that ain't how we roll. We want to be a blessing everywhere we go, and so we also want to invest in the people that invest in us. And so they gave us a really good deal, and it's going to be amazing. Amen. All right, so let's look at these extremes. All right, we're gonna find that we enter different seasons within a season. How many know that there are seasons and times with the Father? So even though we've all been in this, quantum realm, eternal place of always being in communion with God, fully included, and we came to the point of waking up into this reality, doesn't mean that we don't keep track of times and seasons, because we will wake up and then we will walk through seasons of waking up further and being able to really understand the heart of why we woke up in the first place and what is our theme and what is our purpose. And so we're going to walk through all of these different seasons. How many know there's nothing new under the heavens? Nothing new. There's nothing new going on today. There might be a new upgraded emphasis within the same kind of revelation that's been there since the ancients talked about it, but there's nothing new under the sun. We'll walk through different seasons and trends and repeats, and some of that is simply cultural trends, and some of that is, a God trend. But we want to make sure we don't get caught up in the one aspect of the trend, because what happens is we just end up becoming religious in something that was meant to set us free. Okay, so don't get caught up in one way of doing things, right? We do, yes, Ventress, we keep waking up, and so don't settle in something where. Let me give you an example here. Let's say you're in a season where you just came out of a season where you were used and abused and you felt powerless, and the next season is about you having a voice, taking your ground back, saying it as it is. Well, what are you really doing? You're learning that it's okay to have a voice in the field again. So that next season is all going to be about you having a voice and saying no to being used and abused, and lifting your voice for others that have been in that place. And you're going to encounter freedom in your mind just by exercising that. And you're going to walk through that and you're going to go, amen, yes. And guess what's going to happen on the following season? Because I guarantee you in that season, you're going to go extreme, because you now need the following season to also know how to receive, healthy criticism, constructive criticism, how to be adjusted, how to respond when somebody cuts you off without needing to prove yourself. Previous season, you're proving yourself, and you needed to prove yourself because you didn't believe in yourself to begin to prove yourself, or to even have an opportunity to believe you could prove yourself. So now you prove yourself, but I guarantee you some of that's going to settle in the ego, in the mindset that is still trying to protect itself from way back here when there was abuse, when there was control. And so we'll walk in this kind of tainted discernment where we can pick somebody out of the room that reminds us of our ex, or reminds us of that relationship or that childhood experience. And we think we're discerning. And so then we'll protect ourselves, or maybe we'll assert ourselves and just go right up to them and tell them right to their face because we've learned to have a voice. Well, how many know that that's not necessarily the way we should do it? All right. It's actually in the absence of needing to prove anything that we find the balance, but also not going to another extreme where I'm loving you, but I'm too afraid to tell you, hey, you're getting ready to step in a ditch. I've been through this journey. I've walked that out. How many know everybody's in your life that's in your life that you connect to, because somewhere you connect with each other's journey and we've walked it out for one another. And we've experienced the extreme side of this in religion, where as robots, we're told, you need to stop doing this and start doing that outside of real relationship. And so, of course, we've experienced that. And we go, well, the last thing I want to do is go tell this person, hey, you know what, I'm glad you got a voice. I'm glad you're taking your ground back, that you're not going to allow things in your life. But there's also some wounds here that is still in the past, in which you're viewing people from that woundedness, in which you're not even giving them a chance to walk with you for the fear of being controlled or abused again. You see, and so we do walk through these extremes. And guess what? The living creatures in Ezekiel were covered with eyes for a reason, because when we can actually receive from one another as well as give, we're receiving eyes. Okay, we're watching our own back by allowing ourselves to see things through other people's eyes. And I think that's a wonderful, wonderful thing. Let me read you a scripture here. I'm not going to take too long today. I just want to come on here and encourage you. But in Colossians chapter 3, it says, if you then be risen with Christ, seek those things which are above, where Christ is seated on the right hand of God. Set your affection on things above, not on things on the earth. Okay? For you are dead, and your life is hid with Christ in God. When Christ, who is our life, shall appear, then shall you also appear with him in glory. Okay? So we know this. But then it goes on to say, verse 5, mortify therefore your members which are on the earth: fornication, uncleanness, inordinate affection, evil concupiscence, and covetousness, which is idolatry. For which things' sake the wrath of God comes on the children of disobedience, in which you also walked sometime when you lived in them, but now also put off these: anger, wrath, malice, blasphemy, filthy communication out of your mouth. Lie not one to another, seeing that you have put off the old man with his deeds. Now, religion will tell us this in the wrong context. What they're going to say is, if you don't do this right, God's going to get you. Okay, and you're doomed. Okay, and so they brought this display of God's going to come against you with his wrath, and this wrath is his anger towards you, and he's kicking you out, and you're no longer part of the family. Okay, and that's not what it's saying here. First, we've got to put our mind above, and that's the first verses of this scripture. If you then be risen in Christ, seek those things which are above, where Christ sits on the right hand of God. Set your affection on things above, not on things on the earth. Okay, and this is really, really important, because only when we have that perspective are we going to really understand the rest of these verses I previously read. Okay, so we're not trying to beat our body into subjection out of this religious stance of being so self-conscious that I'm fumbling everything, trying so hard to do it all right that I mess it all up in the way in which I pursue. Now, I've taught on this before. The word wrath here is actually means the passionate pursuit of God. Now, it's also connected with discipline. So in other words, if the way you present yourself is causing a lot of people to question you, and I see this all over Facebook. Everybody wants to air their dirty laundry on Facebook. Can I just say, you don't need to do that. You can be completely vulnerable with the people that you're in relationship with, but to be completely all out there with people that are just watching that don't know you, you're asking for persecution. And that tells me that if you're asking for it and then you don't want it by speaking against it, it's because there's something in your life that the Father's wanting to adjust so that you can actually be all things to all people. People can receive you. Okay, so we all have sharp edges. We all have, things that are being worked on in our lives. And so we got to understand that the backfire is the wrath of God. And so the wrath of God here in this context, when we're dealing with the way we treat one another, remember, verse 9 says, let's not lie to one another. Okay, it's relating lying one to another as walking in anger, wrath, malice, blasphemy, filthy communication out of our mouth. Now, that word wrath that's relating to us is not the passionate pursuit of God. It's a completely different wrath. So when you freak out on somebody and you say, well, God wanted me to do that. All things work together for good. Everything is good. God wanted me to do that to you. Now, the person on the receiving end, if they're mature, can utilize that wrath that's coming out of them and out of the other person, and can say, okay, I'm triggered. I reacted. Now I can go inward and I can deal with the way in which I perceive myself in this resistance. But the one giving the wrath that is justifying, well, it's all good and it's all God, is basically lying. They're lying to themselves and they're lying to people. They're living a lie, okay? And it's a self-justification. So what is going on there is we're trying to take, I'm loving you in the name of the Lord, no differently than the religious that were condemning us if we didn't measure up. The only difference is now we're looking for people to justify us when we want to kind of live in a way of just doing our own thing because it's fun and calling it grace and freedom. All right. Now, let me just say this. There is a time, like I said with the example I used about not having a voice. There is a time in which we need to be able to be mature enough to watch people begin to walk and stumble until they're running without stumbling. Okay. So we have to be able to see that and go, okay, this is the season where there's experimentation. People are trying out new things because in the past they were condemned by religion, and they've got to now venture out and see if God's really going to strike them dead if they do these things. I get that. I think we all do that. But the moment you make it, the theme of your life, as in this is the way to do it, well, everybody else is going to be hearing that and receiving that on a different level. And so are you able to break that down in such a way that it's not feeding people's mindsets to justify their own behavior, in senses of extreme things, so there are a lot of people out there that deal with addiction. They deal with their own excuses. They deal with this, that, and the other. And they're actually looking for a place to justify staying bound as long as they can claim freedom in the midst of it. Okay. And this isn't just happening today. This has been happening since the beginning. Okay. And so, I mean, look at the tree of knowledge. The woman you gave me, she gave me of the tree. The serpent made me eat it. Okay. So we're always wanting to put on another why we're doing what we're doing. We don't want to go down. We don't want the ship to go down with just us on it. We want somebody else there agreeing with us so that we don't feel like we failed or we did it wrong. And so let's deal with those things. And I think we're entering a time of learning the balance through confrontation. It's good to see you, Barbara. And it's good to see you too, Ventress and Mindy and Donovan and everybody on here. Just want to say hi again. I know sometimes I don't always stop and say hi, but I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. And so how are we transitioning? Are we aware of the way in which we present ourselves to one another? I mean, I totally believe in being your authentic self. Be genuine. Always be genuine with those who receive you. And be genuine with those who don't, but be to them what you need to be where they're at. All right. We're preaching a gospel of inclusion, right? We're preaching a gospel of inclusion, but I love myself enough that I don't care what you think about me. Now I'm preaching a gospel of inclusion to only those who have that belief system. The rest of them are excluded. Now my gospel is not the gospel. And so again, preaching the gospel is not just you doing a live video or standing at a church pulpit. Preaching the gospel is the way in which you present yourself in life, period. Okay. And so we need to understand that the Father wants to add a few more ingredients in this season. And that is confrontation. And confrontation sucks. I'll tell you right now, I don't think there's anybody that likes confrontation. And really what it is it's the ego that doesn't like confrontation. So if we truly believe we're vulnerable and one, then, and I'm not saying that anybody should just come up and tell you what's wrong with you, or it's not about what's wrong with you. It's about being willing to journey with somebody that you've already been in relationship with, and and you've given each other permission to speak into each other's lives. So if you want to see eye to eye with somebody, then you're not going to smile and I just love you, brother, as you're falling off this cliff, but I'm not going to tell you because love lets you be what you want to be, and love lets me be what I want to be. Well, that's great in one season. In the next season, it's destructive. In the next place, the Father is emphasizing, you're just going around in circles chasing your tail, and you don't get any further than where you were. And I guarantee you that all of that will eventually get old. You'll burn out, and you'll be like, Well, I tried that love thing. I tried that vulnerability thing and it didn't work. Okay. So if we want to deal with uh, anger and wrath and malice and blasphemy and filthy communication out of our mouth, the way in which we converse with one another, okay, then we have to stop lying to ourselves. We can't be living in fear. Well, what if they're offended? What if they're offended when I tell them this? Well, guess what? You really can't offend any adults. You can only offend children. That's why it talks about not offending these little ones. Why doesn't it say don't offend the older ones? Why the younger ones? Because all your offense is based in your childhood. Anything you're offended in today is a trigger of what you were programmed and believed as a child. So you really can't offend anybody today. You can simply expose their offense. Now, is that a good thing? It is if you're in relationship with them and you have communication and you're open to receive from one another. If it's a stranger on the street and you meet and you go, oh, you're a Christian? Oh, yeah, I'm a Christian. Oh, well, let me tell you what you need to do in your life because I love you, brother. Well, that ain't love. That's religion. You're not in relationship. You haven't been invited into relationship. I don't care how one you are. You don't have the right to tell somebody that you don't know what they need to change in their life. That's just being Holy Spirit Jr. and a little sheriff thinking you're the sheriff in the kingdom of God. All right. But if you're in relationship, you go and you tell your brother his fault. And if he receives you, you gained your brother. If not, you don't throw him away. You go get a couple other brothers and you say, hey, man, we really love you. We see that, you're really growing in this area, but there's this area over here that you can't see. And I love you enough to tell you. Now, here's the thing. If I continue with you in that relationship without telling you, I'm also telling myself I don't love myself enough to have a healthy relationship. And so if you respect yourself and love yourself, you're also going to speak truth to others. Now, again, there's a fine line here, and it all comes down to the way in which you perceive yourself in every interaction. When people persecute you, do you feel the need to defend yourself? Most people do. That's something I think we're all walking through and working through. Or do you feel the need to over-explain yourself? Okay. I found myself stuck in that many a times. I want to be able to, if somebody has a question and don't understand, of course I want to explain it better. But am I doing it from a place of I'm right and you're wrong? Hey, good soil. Good to see you, Renee. Am I right and you're wrong? And I'm going to explain myself and defend myself from that place. If I start out from that place, I'm not having a relationship or a conversation. I have now become the judge and jury, and I'm just going to subliminally, with the facade or fake love, fake gospel, I'm going to love you by pushing you away and just simply rejecting everything you're saying to me. Okay, now that shows me that some of the truth we might be walking in that we're defending, claiming, who does this person think they are, telling me this, that, and the other, or questioning what I'm doing, they actually might be seeing, and they are the revelation of God's love to show you a blind spot. Just because you receive a revelation doesn't mean it settles in the center of your spiritual intention. Most of the time, it dangles from the ego's perspective and the opinions and the parts of our mindset that are still trying to protect itself. And that's why we force things sometimes in the way in which we try to love ourselves or prove ourselves or measure up or be quiet when we need to speak up or shut our mouth when we need to, when we're constantly talking. And so really knowing how to gauge this flow is going to come by the way in which you feel and being aware of the frequency coming out of you and the way in which you view this other person. If the other person feels like a threat to you, that's your own stuff. Nobody should feel like a threat to you, no matter how much they are threatening you. If you're whole in that area, if you're balanced in that area. But wherever you're unbalanced, you are going to do what? Well, you're going to defend yourself, or you're going to run from them, or you're just going to, you're going to react outside of your true identity. I did a couple posts today that if you go to my Facebook, you'll see that I'm talking about some of this in my post. This is what I put. I said, much of the persecution we encounter is actually the love of God showing us our blind spots. Our instant resistance to consider this reveals that your revelation is ego-based and is not yet penetrated historical woundedness. Okay, so we want to get beyond that. Now, thankfully, God loves us right where we're at, but He's also not going to leave us right where we're at. He wants us to go on to the place in which we are fully feeling that fulfillment, standing in that complete fulfillment. All right. And I talk about the tough love season is here. Now, the tough love season is not necessarily, again, you're not talking about what's wrong with somebody, because there's nothing wrong with anybody. It's really in the context of everything that is right with them and who they truly are, because we're seeing them as in their full potential, but we're also seeing what they can't see in breaking through consciously to that full potential. So we are just simply there saying, hey, let me help you out here. Now, of course, this is going to happen according to the level of relationship. It might be, for me, preaching to all of you, it's going to be subliminal. I ain't pointing you out. I ain't pulling you aside. I ain't telling you this is what you need to change in your life personally, but I'm giving you a general thing that is corrective in some ways, but it's not, how can I say it? You don't feel singled out. And so it's easier to receive. And at many times, that's sometimes the only way we can communicate with people. Then there are those that are close friends to you, or those that you're training in, and maybe in ministry. Jesus had the 70. They were just focused on getting something from Jesus. They just wanted to move in the power and in the ministry side. That's all they really wanted. So when He said, unless you eat my flesh and drink my blood, you don't have any life in you, they were offended and walked away. So are we going to withhold the real communion from one another, of allowing people to eat of your journey and eat of what you carry? Are we going to withhold it? Are we going to dress it up? Are we going to sweeten it? Are we going to hide it in another meal because we're afraid of being rejected or afraid of them being offended? Well, deal with your fear. That means that part of your life, the Father's wanting to bring that up to par and balance it with these other aspects that you have broken through in. So there's always something that is being adjusted, being tuned. Okay. Be aware of the tuning. We want to talk about frequency, and we want to get rid of the lower frequency and have a higher frequency. But what we forgot about is the tuning of frequency. All right. And so tune your frequency by discerning that not every low frequency you hear from somebody else is there to, somehow destroy your high frequency. If it can, you never had a high frequency. You just were yelling in a low frequency in a high-pitched voice of help, and you haven't listened to your emotions. You haven't listened to your belief system. So it is the way in which we present ourselves to one another that makes all the difference. Okay. Now it continues to say here that we are to put on this new man in Colossians chapter 3. And the new man is basically going to manifest as you discern the extremes and you're able to read and understand, okay, if everything in this life is about me, then everything that's resisting me is also about me. Everything that is persecuting me is also about me. So where am I persecuting myself at a level subliminally underneath that's manifesting through another as a mere reflection, in which now I find myself defending myself against myself in some repressed belief systems that are now being surfaced through this external person. Okay. So we've got to look at it from that side. Now, if you ain't triggered by what somebody is saying, then it's most likely they don't understand either what you're saying, and now it'll be easy for you to communicate and meet them where they're at, or they're projecting their own stuff, and you can respond appropriately without offense, and you can show them how to how to be loved, how to receive love, just simply by the way in which you respond. Okay. We do example it to one another, and most of us are still exempling our childhood program, living a state of reaction, and throwing our toddler fits and needing to get our way, all in the name of loving ourselves. Now, again, anything can be used for you to prove something to yourself, or you can simply embrace and let the Father bring everything to balance out what is currently reflecting in your life. Okay, so it goes on here and it says, verse 12 of Colossians 3, it says, put on therefore as the elect of God, holy and beloved, bowels of mercy, kindness, humbleness of mind, meekness, long-suffering, forbearing one another, and forgiving one another. And if any man have a quarrel against any, even as Christ forgave you, so also do you. And above all these things put on love, which is the bond of perfection. And let the peace of God rule in your hearts, to which also you are called in one body, and be thankful. Now, there's a place in which thanksgiving comes out of us as the response to peace, okay? It talks about the peace of God ruling in your hearts. What that basically means is that is your gauge. So, okay, so if somebody can cause you to lose your peace, and you're in the season of having a voice, and now you're going to exercise it, then that isn't the moment to use your voice. That's the moment to realize that where I believe I need to use my voice is where I'm trying to prove something to myself. So there's something there I've got to deal with about me. It's all about you. Now, again, if you have peace, use your voice. But what you're using it in is from a place of thanksgiving for this engagement that's actually going to restore them and heighten you. It's going to build a bonding together. It's there to heal a breach, not to create one. Okay, that's what that peace is there for, to keep you in alignment with that. Now, let's say you're in a marriage, okay, and it started out good and everything's good, and now all of a sudden, one in the marriage, whether it be the husband or wife, all of a sudden is struggling, okay, and maybe it was stuff that they had been struggling with their whole life, and they've willed it pretty good out of their own strength to look good for those few years, but now they're crumbling, and all those things are coming up. Now, you and I both know that we can encourage them, and we tend to think, well, they weren't struggling when I first met them, but now they're struggling. Here's the thing. Somebody doesn't fall back into a struggle if they're whole, if they've been delivered from a struggle. You don't fall back into a struggle. You suppressed a struggle, mustered up all your strength, tried real hard, put on a facade, and then finally it all blew out, and what you really believed about yourself is now being acted out again. So don't expect that person to be able to change this overnight. They're not going to change it overnight. This is a struggle they probably had for several decades, that they just did really good with pretending freedom out of their own willpower and suppression. So this is going to take some time to help them through this. Now, there are two things going on here. My heart is always for restoration, but there is a time where restoration cannot happen, in the sense of two people being able to abide in dysfunction. And it all comes down to where each person is at. Now, if the person on the receiving end of abuse is codependent because they've been abused, they very well might stay in that relationship claiming that it's love. I love, and I'm going to show love, and I'm going to sacrifice to, and eventually someday that person might come out of it, and someday they might. But when you kind of look at the overview of it, most people will be in that relationship 25, 30 years before they're finally ending the relationship because there was never any change. That's not love to enable somebody to stay in that place. It's actually love to disable them to stay in that place. And so you tell them who they are. You love them. You tell them they're fully received, fully accepted. When they're in a moment of clarity, that's when you kind of make an agreement on what are we going to do. You might have to, in a sense, wives, women, you've had to do this. You've had to sometimes raise your own husband as your own child. Okay. Where, his emotions were stunted. He was never affirmed. He only had negative attention, and so he was never given boundaries or taught how to be responsible. And so he grew up just kind of doing whatever. And, you got together, you got married, and now all of a sudden you're trying to deal with the two kids you guys produced, but now you're dealing with your husband as a third child who can't get it together, can't be consistent, can't be responsible, not communicating with you, and just going out and doing things that you're picking up the pieces. You're having to work double time to try to make it work. There's a place there. You pull out all the stops. Okay. I'm telling you, you're going to pull out all the stops. If you love this person, you are going to, guess what? You're going to take his credit cards away from him. You're going to have to agree on him. If he doesn't want to agree, well, he might need to hit the road and take a break and say, hey, when you're ready to have a family, come on back. But you might have to take a break until he's willing. But if he's willing to say, yeah, I do have a problem. I really, I can't manage my money. I can't, stop doing this, or maybe there's addiction involved or whatever. You're going to have to take his money away. He's got food, he's got shelter, and get him a gas card for his vehicle. Don't give him money for gas. You might have to do that for a while, because you're going to first have to starve that mindset if he or she is willing. Okay. And believe me, they're going to then do what? Well, they're going to think, well, I'm doing good. They're going to pat themselves on the back. I'm doing good in this, but I really want this. And my spouse ain't giving me, the money I need to get this. So I'm going to go and borrow money from a friend. That's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to get it anyway. But it's okay, because I didn't take it from over here. Now it's justified. What's happening is that person is now using their mind. They're manipulating themselves to reward themselves for good behavior to still get what they wanted, which keeps them from actually breaking free from the pattern that they're in. And so what do? Well, you call up their friends too, and you cut them off. Not relationally, but you tell them, don't give any more money to so-and-so, because they're going to use it to get what they want, which is keeping them in this pit. So these are just examples I'm giving you. You can use this in multiple ways, and it will really help. Okay. I know my wife and I, in the beginning of our marriage, I had learned some patterns throughout my life from childhood, which I didn't really get fully healed from. I got some partial healing. I knew what I was doing was wrong, but I would do it anyway at certain levels when I get really triggered. And that was to manipulate my wife and convince her, that, through self-pity, that, if I don't get what I want, I'm going to die. I'm going to kill myself. I won't be able to survive whatever it is, whatever it was. I did this with past relationships. There was a time it was so extreme where I used to punch myself in the face, put a belt around my neck tight when I didn't get what I wanted, to, punish myself in front of them, all in the name of, I'm so sorry. You don't deserve this. Let me show you, how much I love you. I'm going to punish myself. And I would do stupid things like this. And I would set myself up to where they would either be in front of me or walk in on me so that they could go, oh no, and take it off and say, here, have it. And they would, and that's it would be a manipulation through self-harm. Okay. Why? Because pretty much anytime I did anything wrong as a kid, I was beaten half to death, told I was worthless. I was never rewarded for doing anything right. I was never noticed when I overcame. And so this is stuff that we learn. And we just act out what we know. And so my wife, I didn't go to that extreme with my wife as much to what I just shared, but I would still try to use self-pity and self-loathing to manipulate her to get my way. And if I didn't do that, then I'd get upset and demand and ultimatums, and she wouldn't give in. And I'm like, well, what do I do? She's at that time, she was the one working. I wasn't. So I didn't have nothing. I had no way to do anything. It was a perfect experience, perfect place to be, because she's like, you know what? When you're done having a pity party, you come and have a real conversation with me. And she just walk away. You know what? That set me free. Not of it, not in the beginning. In the beginning, I was even more angry, because it's like, she's not falling for this crap like the other people in my past fell for it. I'm still not getting my way. It's no longer working. Sometimes no is the greatest way to love somebody, is to say no. No, I love you enough not to do that for you. I love you enough not to enable you in this. And so I think as we kind of step forward, give yourself a voice. If in the past your voice was taken from you, and now you're just putting up with behavior around you, thinking it's love, and you're being abused, guess what? You're still married to that ex in the past who abused you and took away your voice. You left him. You've moved on with your life physically, but you're still there emotionally. And now you're with another person who's doing the same thing. Guess what? Learn to move your space. Sometimes divorce is an exodus, not a divorce, especially if you married somebody all in the name of help. Two people get together and they just really want help. They don't know that. They think, oh, I'm in love, but really their heart's crying, I need help. And now I'm going to replace that help with a person to love. But all they're going to do is take from that relationship. They're never going to give, because they don't know how to give, because all they need is help. They need a counselor, not a spouse in that moment. Okay. And so I think, as we begin to journey through life, we don't have to wait until harvest time to realize what we did. Okay. Or what we should have done. All right. Don't wait until the harvest. Don't blindly walk through your life going, well, God's going to take care of it. I'm just loving people. They're self-destructing all around me. And I don't want to tell them anything, because that's religion. I don't want to judge them. You don't have to judge them. Judging somebody wrongfully is making you superior. Have you ever journeyed through that? Yeah. Was it detrimental to you? Yeah. Don't you wish somebody would have said something? Even if you hadn't listened? Yeah. I think all of us would have said, I wish somebody would have told me I was getting ready to fall into a pit. It's like somebody telling you, somebody not telling you you've been walking around with a booger hanging out of your nose all day. I mean, that's just rude. Tell your friends if they got a booger hanging out of their nose, And so, we definitely want to love people. Now, when you're secure enough in you, if they're offended, you're still going to love them. You're still there for them. They'll get over their offense if they're willing, but you're not really moved by whether they're offended or not. If you're moved by whether somebody is offended or not, when you have a truth to share with them that's going to help them, well, then that's your thing. That means you're still married to being voiceless back here to Mr. X or Mrs. X, and you're technically still married to them, emotionally speaking. So it's time to move on with our life. So, this is going to help you, and it's going to help the people in your life. All right. So, this is not the sloppy agape free for all that I can label God's love as doing whatever I want or allowing other people to control anything I want. That's not love. Okay. It says about grace, and this is something about grace I think is really important. It says that, for one thing, the scripture says grow in the grace. We're to grow in grace, and growing in grace means that we're constantly unveiling the facets of what grace is. Okay. Grace empowers me to overcome. Grace enables me to let other people in. Grace allows me to speak up. Okay. Grace says, where I need to defend myself, lay yourself down and don't justify yourself. But in the next season, grace says, now stand up and have a voice and be confident in who you are. Grace comes to balance everything we think we're supposed to be and do. It comes in and it brings the balance. So allow grace to come. It also says that where sin abounds, grace abounds, which basically means that wherever I'm operating blindly, there is grace to come out of that blindness, whether it be through consequence, resistance, a revelation of God's love, whatever it is, somebody being willing to walk with you when nobody before did. That's all grace. Okay. But it also talks about not using grace as your license to sin. And basically, that's when we're claiming grace in the lens of some emotional belief system that is still broken, in which we're using it to justify our pain or justify our freedom to freak out and, cuss at everyone and, and all of that stuff. Okay. So we definitely want to know the difference between real grace and the fake grace we're using to protect our facades. And so, you're going to freak out, you're going to let it out, but also realize that there's coming a time where there's a lot of things you might be doing right now that you think is freedom that won't be freedom in 2 months, in 3 months, and in 6 months. That's why we're always constantly changing. That's why God will let other people get away with what he won't let you get away with. You ever had that happen to you, where you're not allowed to do what other people are doing? Why aren't you allowed to do what they're doing? Okay. Why does your conscience condemn you? Okay. Because you've balanced something in your life where they're still journeying out, stepping into something they never had. They go extreme, and then they eventually begin to balance out. And so have grace for people in those seasons. You'll be able to spot them. You'll be able to tell, because they're constantly changing who they are. They're constantly, from week to week, there's something else, and they believe in something else. And what they're doing is they're finding themselves. And we need to rejoice in somebody being willing to do that. And we need to come alongside and encourage them. Grow. Yeah, go for it. Enjoy it. And eventually there'll come a lot of flack, at the right time externally, which will appear as persecution, but is really God saying, all right, you know who you are now. I'm not going to strike you dead. If you freak out, I love you. I'm not disappointed with you like religion taught you. Now let's go ahead and balance this thing. Now it's time to add another ingredient. Let's go ahead and learn some social skills. Let's learn not to give all our dirty laundry to everybody. Why? They can't handle it. Jesus said there are many things I want to tell you, but you can't bear them now. Know what is bearable. Know whose burden you're supposed to bear and those you're not. Know when to say, hey, brother, I see you, claiming equality with God, but I see your wife really struggling and it's stifling her. Are you sure that what you're claiming it from is really from grace and not feeling powerless? And now you want to escape that powerlessness and therefore claim a truth from the wrong motive, from the wrong lens, and realizing that even some of the things we stand on and claim and defend, we hear the response externally. And if you're not getting a response where a lot of people are going, amen, and yes, and that's for me, and you're not seeing that fruit bear, it's probably a truth that is a truth, but it's resting in you defending a part of yourself that's now being exposed through the external resistance, in which you need to take heed and allow grace to come in and balance that. So anyway, I wanted to share a little bit on this and just kind of give you a few things that's been on my heart. And I also, let me just kind of close with this. Let me read you a little bit here that I wrote today on Facebook. I said, grace empowers you to face your own junk and take account for your own actions. Grace doesn't sit by with a silent smile encouraging destructive behavior. Where mistaken identity abounds, grace abounds in resisting who you are not to unveil who you are. Using grace as a license to stay in a mistaken identity means you have yet to experience grace. It is self-manipulation in which we think we are commissioned by God to continue to act like a fool at another person's expense. Grace doesn't judge where another struggles. Grace exposes where another is pretending they want freedom when they just want fun with no consequences. You and I are grace in the way in which we mirror one another. So don't think you're being mean and insensitive when you call people on their, on their junk. But don't just call them on it. You better be willing to walk with them through it and be the example of how to walk it out. Okay. So be yourself, be honest. All right. Be honest. Like Derek Carter just said, be honest. And Barbara, that's awesome that you were writing about this today as well. And so it is a now season for this. I get it. Believe me, can I just share real quick one more testimony? Let me just give you a little bit of my background. And this came in even all the way up to the beginning of my marriage with Shauna. And I had been married other times in which some of it was dealt with, but pretty much not a lot of it. I kept doing the same stupid thing over and over and over again, expecting different results. And what do they call that? Insanity, right? And so, I'd get a credit card in the mail. I didn't have any money. To me, it was like the treasures of the wicked are laid up in store for the just. Free money. And I'd just go out and buy what I wanted. And then I'd hide out from the creditors. I'd get a few more credit cards, try to use one to pay the other, steal from Peter to pay Paul, that kind of deal. And then, when it all ran out, I would just hide out for 7 years until my credit was good. And then I go do it all over again. So I had no understanding of stewardship. Okay. I was always overspending, always going without. And then when I had money, I would overspend again because now I've got to compensate myself for going without, even though I'm the one that put myself in the position of being without in the first place. So I did all that. And, I put the people that I love, through all kinds of stuff because I was self-centered. It was all about what I wanted. Everything revolved around Brian and what he wants. Now, how did I justify it? Well, because the Lord is telling me. Well, God spoke to me. Okay. So in other words, I'm taking the Lord's name in vain and I'm using God as my manipulation and my control because I moved in the gifts of the Spirit, because I have an anointing and because I'm really, a really good salesman in that aspect. I could sell them that. Now, was I really thinking I was doing that? No, I actually genuinely thought God was speaking to me. Now, I had to wait for harvest time with the destruction of marriage, the loss of children, being homeless, nobody wanting to be around me. That was my harvest from those seasons. And guess what? What did I do? Well, I just went out and found somebody else and started all over again. Oh, well, I've got somebody else. It must not have been too bad. And then I did it again and again and again, over and over and over again until they left. Okay, so I understand these cycles very well. I was the chief manipulator, chief player. I manipulated myself so much that I thought I was actually hearing from God. Okay, and so I would justify all kinds of behavior. Spirits lead me to go over here, and I'd go over there, and so I could, get high or do this or do that, and really what it was I was out of my own condemnation, really trying to prove to myself that I'm worthy of love and worthy of freedom. So I'd go out and I'd act them out of my condemnation. And so it's really amazing. Like you said here, Derek, accountability has been major for me. I had no accountability in those days. Accountability was me being honest with myself and me allowing other people to speak into my life, allowing people I trust and love. Now, let me just tell you this. No matter how trustworthy someone is in your life, when you're looking through that lens, you're going to justify where they're not trustworthy at some point. And you will accuse them of controlling you and judging you when that hunger in you that hasn't been fed to meet that need and that cycle, it's going to come right back and bite you in the rear end. And so you got to be able to discern, oh, wait a second here. I'm in this for the long haul. I'm not just in it until I get some partial restoration. And now I feel good. And now my ego is ready to go again, because you'll find yourself right back in the same mess again. So I had to be put in several situations that I would never wish upon anybody. And, you know, we have to understand that we don't have to wait till harvest time to discern what we've been sowing the whole time in our lives. I really believe this is the season where our honesty and tough love in communicating with one another is going to save us a lot of years of consequences and pain, and that we don't need to walk through if we'll just listen to instruction. It's real clear. The fool learns by experience, but the wise learns by instruction. So if you can't hear the people in your life that love you, that have truly been there for you, even when you've been just struggling and going through it, you know, if you don't want to listen to them, then that means you would prefer destruction in your life to teach you, rather than the love of people that actually care about you. So let people in, let them speak life over you. There are times I'll see things in people's lives and I won't say a word to them about them. I'll see it and I'll just example life to them. And as they all of a sudden they start feel a little bit more comfortable knowing I'm not going to judge them, that I'm not there to condemn them. Why? I've been there. I know this, you know. Now, if I'm still condemning myself in the past, then yeah, I'm going to condemn you, because I'm going to expect you to measure up to what my own self-effort and pain management I've been using to try to repress my pain and forget about it. But if I've truly let go of that condemnation and I've gotten the Father's perspective and I've come up out of that and I'm now at peace with my journey because now it's producing fruit, I've learned my lesson. I'm not going to judge you. And I'm not going to tell you without you pretty much coming close enough to me and giving me that permission. So if you give permission to me and you say, Brian, if you see anything in my life, I want you to tell me. I'm not even going to say it then. You know what I'm going to tell you? I'm going to tell you about my life. I'm going to share with you my life, and I'm going to tell you all the crap I walked through and what the Father helped me with. And I'm going to leave it at that for a while, and then I'm going to walk with you some more. We're just going to have relationship. And as time goes by, if there's still, you didn't get that one, then maybe I'll say, hey, listen, you remember you said to me that if I ever saw something that I could speak into your life, can I just share with you that I love you enough that I don't want to see you hurting in this area anymore? And I believe there's a way out of it if you'll allow me to help you. And if you'll just hear me out and allow me to just kind of hold you accountable as you go through life, when I see this kind of reaction or this response to draw away or to defend yourself, can I be there for you to be your conscience in this place? Now, most people, if you truly are speaking it from a heart of love, and they love you, they're going to say yes, please. No, when the rubber meets the road, they might all of a sudden start bucking against it. That's the trigger. That's okay. You can then say, all right, okay, remember, this is love. I love you. So you're constantly reaffirming who they are in the midst of the judgment, not who they are not. You don't want to focus in on what's wrong with them. You don't want to sit and berate them and go back and forth over and over and over again. You want to speak who they are and say, okay, this isn't a big deal. We can adjust this. This isn't who you are. This is something you learned. Let's adjust it. I do this several hours a day with people, and I love people, and I love being with people, and I love the fact that people have trusted me with their hearts. I love it, and I feel honored. I feel I am very careful in the way in which I hold people's hearts. With one person, I might be able to speak plainly because that's their disposition. But with another, that might shatter them because it's not their disposition. So can we be able to read the disposition of each and be able to meet them where they are at? So I hope this word has blessed you guys. And if it wasn't for my wife, my wonderful wife, Shauna, I would not be who I am today, because she said enough is enough. You're not going to throw a little tantrum. You're not going to manipulate me to try to get what you want. Um, it's no for me. She said, no, you're not going to do that. But instead, we're going to do this. And you know what? She taught me how to be a good man. She taught me how to be a good husband and a good father. And I wouldn't be able to do it without her. And so I'm very thankful for her. And she showed tough love with me. She didn't baby me through it. She was pretty hard on me, and I'm so glad she was, because I needed that. I needed structure where I didn't have it as a child, and I needed to grow up. So for a while, my wife was kind of like my mommy there for a bit, until I learned how to be a man. And and that was we've been married 14 years, and so at least 10 years out of that 14, it's been I've been a man, okay. And so and anybody that knows my wife, you know what you experience through what she carries, that she is so genuine, and she is the most godly woman I've ever met, and the greatest woman I've ever met. And of course, she's my wife, but in reality, she is the greatest woman I've ever met and ever been privileged to be around. And so just be encouraged. Let all the seasons, you're going to be on the teeter-totter for a while. You're going to be going, oh, this is what God is saying. To no, this is what God is saying. To no, this is who I am. To oh, no, this is who I'm not, that I don't want to be. To oh, finally, I got rid of this part of me. To oh, no, I thought I was done with that. And you're going to go back and forth. Look at your responses. That's it. And let it flow. Let it flow. Know that it is you're safe to teeter-totter until you balance out. And as people begin to come around you and you begin to receive what they carry, you're going to accelerate so quickly. And yes, you will finally find that resting place where you're no longer needing to adjust. The extremes are gone, and you've entered the rest. And guess what you'll be doing? You'll be helping others to adjust. Amen. Thank you, guys. Love you guys. Appreciate you. Please like and share. And if you feel led to give, we appreciate any donations in this season. We're realizing, as we're getting ready to launch out, the cost of gas. And of course, we get anywhere from 6 to 9 miles to the gallon in this diesel pusher motorhome as we travel and minister. And that's going to be probably our biggest issue in this season, is gas money. So if you want to bless us with gas money, please feel free. We're going to be on the road soon, and anybody that wants to sow towards that, you can just put in the notes. And there is a place to put in a note on PayPal for what it's for. You can put, this is for your gas, for gas and travel. And we appreciate that. And we bless you guys, and we'll be getting all that information out for you soon. Visit our website at www.foggm.org. And notice it's being upgraded right now. It's looking a lot better than it was. I just want to give a shout out to Christopher Early. He's also on my Facebook. He's a young man in Redding, California, who's got his own business in nutrition and protein supplements, vegan-based and plant-based supplementation, which I've used. It's good. I want to encourage you to support his business if you're looking for that, or if you're looking for somebody that is needing web design or graphics. He doesn't have any certification in it. He's self-taught, but I said, let's give it a try. He reached out and did it for me for free to bless our ministry. And I felt led to pay him some money for it, because his work was definitely worthy of it. And I wanted to invest in him. So Christopher Early, if you're needing any work done, be a blessing. Bless him. Open some doors for him. He's looking for clients, and he's been working hard. And he's got integrity. He's a hard worker, and he'll get the job done. So I just want to put his name out there for you, that I believe in him, and I believe in what he carries. And so if you need any of that done, reach out. Check out my website to see what you think. And love you guys. Appreciate you. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you soon. Be blessed. Bye-bye.